The Vino Geek Podcast, wine from a Kiwi perspective. Why is Pinot Noir often more expensive than other wines out there? Is it the fact that it's scarce? Is it rare? Is it branding? Is it, is it supply and demand? The fact that there is such a demand for it that they can charge what they do. What is it? Well, that's what we're exploring today, is what makes Pinot Noir so expensive. When we're discussing this, the first thing we have to talk about is the grape variety itself. Pinot Noir. Now, the thing with Pinot Noir is that it's very fickle. It doesn't like it too hot. Obviously doesn't like being too cold. I mean, not a lot of grapes do like being too cold. So that's the thing. If it doesn't like being too hot and it doesn't like being too cold, it is the Goldilocks of grape varieties, It really is. It's super fickle. It has really thin skins. So this not only impacts the flavor, but it impacts the growing ability. If there's any extreme weather, it's not going to cope with that because the thin skins aren't equipped to handle adversity, the heat, the rain, the hail, all of these sorts of things that do affect, grapes. Yeah, and it doesn't like to be cropped at a high level. So you can't just go and intensively crop to produce high yields, because what you end up with is something that just tastes like a light red wine. It doesn't taste like Pinot Noir. And that's what you do find a lot of times with the cheaper Pinot Noir. So yeah, these are big factors. And this is the grape variety talking. This is only talking about the grape and how the grape and its physiology impacts price. So yeah, all of those things add up to more expense. What I meant to say was Goldilocks. It is the Goldilocks of grape varieties, It really is. It's super fickle. It has really thin skins. So this not only impacts the flavor, but it impacts the growing ability. If there's any extreme weather, it's not going to cope with that because the thin skins aren't equipped to handle adversity, the heat, the rain, the hail, all of these sorts of things that do affect, grapes. Yeah, and it doesn't like to be cropped at a high level. So you can't just go and intensively crop to produce high yields, because what you end up with is something that just tastes like a light red wine. It doesn't taste like Pinot Noir. And that's what you do find a lot of times with the cheaper Pinot Noir. So yeah, these are big factors. And this is the grape variety talking. This is only talking about the grape and how the grape and its physiology impacts price. So yeah, all of those things add up to more expense.
Just taking a quick pause in the episode to remind you to like, subscribe, comment, and come and follow me on socials too.
This is played out perfectly in its home region of Burgundy. Burgundy has extreme weather where it's not necessarily super hot, although of late they have had heat waves, but they often get hailstorms, they get the rain, they get wind. All of these factors, they get low yields. And then, the best places to grow it are normally the harder plots of land to navigate, so they can't intensively farm. So it means it's a high manpower thing, up on the slopes. They can't put machinery through there to mechanically harvest and prune and things like this. It's all done by hand. So that impacts it. Then one thing with Burgundy is they have tiny plots of land, so tiny vineyards, and then those are broken down further into different plots, and different producers get to take certain amounts from each little vineyard, each little block. So that impacts the price. And then on top of all of this is how expensive land is in Burgundy. And this is probably the big kicker that drives Burgundy through the roof. So your top Burgundy wines, they are thousands of dollars. They're not just hundreds of dollars because they are so rare, they are so scarce, and this filters through and impacts the pricing for every other thing, because if this is the benchmark and if you're producing something of a relatively equal or better quality, wouldn't you want to command more of a price tag? Just like anything, any producer, if you're producing something that is as good as something else or better, you want to reap the same rewards that these other people are doing. You want the same profit. It's just human nature. This is just how society is. We want to maximize how much we can make out of the product we produce. And so that's what, that impacts the world of Pinot Noir, given that Burgundy is the benchmark, it is the home, and this is how much they make on these wines. So yeah, it's just goes to show that this is, that Burgundy has a big impact on the price of Pinot Noir as a whole. Now we come to New Zealand, and with New Zealand Pinot Noir, where Pinot Noir is grown in New Zealand, again, is tougher areas to grow. You've got Central Otago, which is sort of the flagship. And, it's a land of extremes, as I explained in previous episodes, And so with small vineyards, small cropping areas, extreme weather, extreme cold, extreme heat, they're not able to produce big quantities of Pinot Noir. So obviously the Pinot is going to be more expensive. And if you take what you produce as a whole, the best of that is only going to be a percentage of it. It's not going to be the whole lot. So if you have, if you're not producing a lot in the beginning, producing a big enough crop, your wine that you produce is going to be at a higher level. Martinborough is the same. As I've talked about, they have these winds in spring that lower the yield by, this wind comes through during flowering, and that just lowers the cropping level naturally. So that impacts how much Pinot Noir can be produced. You look at Marlborough, and while you traditionally can get cheaper Pinot Noir from Marlborough, that Pinot Noir usually is rubbish. I will hand on heart say it is rubbish. It is Pinot Noir that is not Pinot Noir. It's just wine made from Pinot Noir grapes. There is a difference. And this is why good Pinot Noirs are expensive, because you can't make cheap Pinot Noir. You make cheap Pinot Noir, and it's not Pinot Noir. It's just a red wine. Quite often with the cheaper Marlborough Pinots, they are very high in acidity, they are tart, they aren't pleasant to drink. If you're drinking them, you're only drinking them to get drunk. I'm saying that right now, being blunt and being very to the point. That's why the companies that make these wines are only making them because they know you want to drink Pinot Noir and you don't want to pay a price for it. That's why they're making it. They're making trash. And same with Central Otago. The cheaper Central Otago Pinots are very similar because they're just making trash too. They're just trying to get your money. They're not giving you quality, and that's why. And even then, the price they charge you for it is criminal. They're charging you for the fact that it's from Central Otago. They're not charging you on the quality of the wine when you're buying that entry level. You getting sucked in by the fact that it's Central Otago is what they're trading off. And I don't care who this offends, but you guys know who you are out there that produce these crap Pinot Noir that drive the and then drive the price up, so that these higher end ones, people don't want to touch them because they try the crap down here and they think it can't be that much better when there's light years between it. And yourselves, when you're making these wines that are down here, so you can sell your more expensive wines to the people that do understand, you're doing this to make your money, to milk people out of their money. And I'm happy to stand up here and say that, and I'm happy to challenge anybody that challenges me. I know it's a business and you need to make money and it's tough, but you're growing Pinot Noir in Central Otago. Of course it's tough. That's the whole point of you growing Pinot Noir in Central Otago. The best producers understand this, and that's why their wines cost, because they're willing to do that, to produce the best they can. Well, I wasn't expecting to go on such a rant about the pricing of Pinot, but it is important that you understand this, that for the most part, the cheap Pinot Noir is just rubbish. It's just rubbish. And you're better to drink foreign wines that are similar to Pinot Noir because you get better value. You actually get better value from other varieties. As much as I'm a Kiwi-centric podcast, I have to admit that when it comes to value reds, it is difficult in New Zealand to get reds of that cheap value because of the fact that producers in New Zealand are tiny, and this impacts the whole wine industry in New Zealand. The production levels in New Zealand is tiny compared to the rest of the world. So in order for you to get that cheap quaffing wine that's really good, it is difficult in New Zealand. Sure, there's the odd exception that you do find, but 9 times out of 10, if you want a cheap quaffer, you need to look at white wine from New Zealand because that's what we produce the most of. That's what flourishes here as far as a bulk production scenario goes. And, so is it worth spending the money? Yes, it is. It's worth. Pinot Noir at that higher level is worth it. Pinot Noir at the entry level is not worth it. It's not going to yield what you want it to do, and it's not a great representation of Pinot Noir. Sure, there's the odd one that just sticks its head above the parapet, and it's just that little bit better. It offers that little bit of extra quality. But, at Lionel's, where I was in charge of the wine list, I refuse to have a cheap Central Pinot, refuse to have cheap Pinot Noir full stop, because I want quality. We want to offer quality. Don't want to offer something just because it's cheap, just so there's something in the price point that somebody would afford. No, if you want a cheap red that's like a Pinot, you can drink the Ascoon Barbera, which is outstanding value and really, really good wine. But it's not Pinot. And it's not cool because it's not Pinot. And this is the thing. Sure, you could look at the fact that we make you buy an expensive Central Otago Pinot because we know you will. And yes, I know you will. I know that customers going to Lionel's will happily buy a $20+ glass of Pinot Noir. And when you look at the big cities, it's cheap what we charge. But I know you will pay that, and I know that you'll go, oh, yeah, this is good Pinot. But, don't complain. And this is not a ranting episode, so I'm just going to park that. But yeah, back to, is it worth it? Yes, the best quality Pinots are worth it. They are amazing, and their ability to age rivals anything else. Great Pinot Noir will age beautifully, and so that's the thing. The quality is reflective in the price. Sure, there's the other factors like the grapes are thin. You can't crop highly. It's very fickle and it's very sensitive, and all of these things, they all are factors in why Pinot Noir is expensive. But at the end of the day, the reward you get for high quality Pinot is a great reward. And when you do find those ones that are relatively inexpensive that are just really good drinking and a really well-made quality wine that is also exciting and great. And that's what our wine of the week is this week. So I won't talk too much more about that, but the wine of the week is really good value, really well made, a really solid entry-level Pinot Noir, and it's well worth it. If you don't want to spend too much, this is the style of Pinot that you should be looking for instead of what they market and what most people tend to drink, which is just, it's not Pinot Noir anymore. At least this is still Pinot Noir and it's still honest to its variety and what it should be. And that's the key to Pinot. Sure, it's expensive, but you get what you pay for. You get what you pay for with Pinot Noir.
Just taking a quick pause in the episode to remind you to like, subscribe, comment, and come and follow me on socials too.
So the wine of the week, I actually recorded this a few weeks early. So yeah, you're going to check that out right now. Now we're tasting the Paddy Borthwick Paper Row Pinot Noir 2024. Let's see what this is like. Paddy Borthwick's from the Whited Upper, so in just north of Wellington there. So it's much sort of like the little brother, if you like, to Martinborough. It tends to be a little lighter and a little bit sort of more red fruit spectrum than Martinborough. So on the colour is a light tomorrow, it's sort of ruby. It's quite bright, quite fresh. Nose is very much strawberries, there's that stony sort of earthy character you do get from Whited Upper and Martinborough wines. It's going to, there's a bit of spice, almost sort of currant characters in there. Palate elegant and well balanced. There's a lovely freshness to it that drives it through the palate. The fruit is not too heavy. It's more sort of light finish, and it's nice. It is nicely balanced. The alcohol's not too much. The tannin is nice and soft. It's a fresher style. Very much sort of your charcuterie and your light meals. Again, your tomato-based sort of pastas and all those. As far as this, just notice a little bit more sort of herbaceousness and sort of spice on the nose as well, which is nice to see. As far as the score goes, again, probably, what is it? As far as the score is concerned, lovely drinking wine, nicely balanced. It is on the lighter, sort of simpler style of things, so it's not, doesn't have a huge amount of complexity, doesn't have a amount of weight or presence or anything. Still a very lovely wine. So based on that, I'd give it a 90 out of 100. So really well made, really balanced, but just again, in order to move up to those next levels, it needs more. So let's wrap things all up. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, Pinot Noir is expensive. Yes, it is difficult for producers to make. And yes, it does have an air of elitism, it's sort of like the elitist wine, and people tend to want to drink it to show off. But take all that away, the quality of Pinot Noir and the price of it is justified. It is what it is, and it has to be what it is because of all the factors that I talked about earlier. Sure, there's the other factors that just irk me and really rile me up, likes of cheap Pinot being masqueraded as better Pinot, and and just trying to flog cheap Pinot to everybody and making it out that it's really good. That irritates me, and the fact that people either think that that's a great Pinot or they are led to believe that that is a great Pinot, so why buy anything else? Or they have a bad experience, try a trashy rubbish Pinot, and they think that that's all Pinot Noir. That probably irks me more because people haven't been able to experience what really good Pinot Noir is, and really good Pinot Noir is magical. And so, it is worth paying a little bit more. It is a special occasion wine. As I said, there's other varieties from all around the world that are really good options to drink in place of Pinot Noir if you don't want to spend the money on Pinot Noir. As I said, at Lionel's, the house red is the Ascot and Barbera, and it's a great alternative to Pinot Noir just to not have to pay the price for Pinot Noir, for good Pinot Noir. You can get a really good Barbera at a really good price. So that's Kiwi, that's from New Zealand rather than, but yeah, Italian Barbera, French Gamay has got a lot more expensive now, but things like, really good value Tempranillo or Garnacha are really good options, the entry level stuff, and yeah, just play and just have a look around and talk to your local wine stores and talk to, specialty stores and talk to them about what they recommend as a great value alternative to Pinot Noir. Anyway, that being said, yes, Pinot Noir is expensive, but it needs to be, because Pinot Noir is and always will be that style of wine. Anyway, that's all I have to say this week. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, thank you for joining us. Santé, Barak.